Before we get started, let me say there is only one rule with this wish list. There are no rules. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. I am Grand Moff Tony. Now, as most of you know, whenever we do these wish list videos, there are a couple of main rules that we try to stick to. I say try to stick to because breaking my own rules for these lists has kind of just become a thing that I do in every video. But those rules usually revolve around, we're talking about single pack releases, we're talking about deluxe figures, we're not talking about vehicles, we're not talking about Haslabs. However, with all that being said, for what is probably going to be our final video of the year, I decided to hell with the rules. Let's do this properly. Let's do a wish list that I have wanted to do for a very, very long time. We're going to finally be talking about Haslabs. What with the vintage collection HasLab Ghost arriving any day now, my brain has just been stirring, coming up with ideas for what would make a great Black Series HasLab, because let's face it, we don't have the best track record so far. I went in on the Rancor and I really wanted it. I didn't care about the tiers, I didn't care about what I got with it, I just wanted a Black Series Rancor. And now there is a Rancor-shaped hole in my collection because of how that panned out. Add to this the misstep with the Reaver lightsaber HasLab, and what we're left with is being basically 0 for 2 on Black Series HasLabs, and there doesn't really seem to be any kind of movement in that direction at Hasbro. I can probably understand that, 2 failures in a row, even though I don't think the lightsaber should have counted, because it might say Black Series on the box, but 1-to-1 is not the same as 1/12. So there's that. But with that said, I sat down and I started to think about what would be some good choices for Black Series Haslabs, because going into 2025, I am ever hopeful that one day we'll get another one. I'm the dreamer of impossible dreams. Let's get one of these going and let's have it actually fun this time. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm bringing you my top 5 Black Series wishlist picks for Haslabs I would love to see come to this line. Now, I'm not talking about price at all today because I'm not an economist. I don't work in a toy company. I don't know how they come up with the prices with these sets. I'm just going to be talking about sets that I would personally back. And since I don't really care about tiers, I'm not going to be saying for each one, this should be tier 1, this should be tier 2, this should come in the base set. I really don't care. I'm just talking about 5 ideas for projects that I would back as part of a Black Series HasLab. So with all the fluff out of the way, let's get into the honorable mentions. Coming up first, I would like to see a Black Series Sarlacc Pit diorama set, or play set, whatever you want to call it. I talk about world building in this line a lot because even though it's not something that the line specifically sets out to do, it is something that can take your displays to the next level, having just like a couple of set pieces that go together to create a really cool looking display. And I feel like the Sarlacc Pit would work really well. I feel like I've seen Sarlacc play sets and I've thought that would look really good in Black Series scale. Now, what we're going to be talking about a lot with this list is relative scale, and that's being that it's not going to be exactly 1/12 scale every time. Sometimes we will have to see things scaled down just a little, just so that they fit into the line without being too massive, because that's usually an obstacle that we run into with these larger sets, is that to do the scale exactly the way that it would be in this size would be too big. So I'm happy to kind of scale it down. As long as this thing can eat toys, I'm happy with it, because I have got a thing about toys that eat other toys. I had this Goomba fish toy when I was a kid, and I loved putting figures in its mouth, and anytime I had a figure that could eat another figure, I was really pleased with it. So a Sarlacc Pit would be fantastic. Stick some posable tentacles on there, give me an articulated beak, and hell, take the beak out for the people who like the beakless version. Sarlacc Pit, easy pick for an honorable mention. Possibly the biggest item on this list, and something that again would have to be subject to relative scale, I'd love to see the Phantom 2 come to the Black Series in a HasLab. Now, what really got us going on this was the fact that they've done it for the Vintage Collection Ghost, and the way that they've done it is they have, like I said, adjusted the scale ever so slightly, so you can get a figure in there, and it's not quite as big as it would be, but you can still get the figure and you can still play with it. I feel like we could do that for Black Series as well. We could do that as well, just have a cockpit that you can fit a couple of figures in, you don't really need all the space in the back, and yeah, I'd buy it, I'd back it in a heartbeat, because it's Rebels, and Rebels gets a free pass. And for my final honorable mention, I am once again appearing before you to ask that you re-release the Rancor. Just give us another shot at it. I know it's not going to be $350 again. It's never going to be that much again. But I would love another swing at this set because I wanted it the first time around, and I will pay for it again. Re-release the Rancor. Honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the list itself. Coming in at number 5, you know how I said there are no rules for this list? I'm doing a multi-pack. We're talking about the Attack of the Clones Arena Monsters, the Reek, the Nexu, and the Acklay. I had all 3 of these figures when I was a kid, and they were some of my favorite figures in my collection. I loved playing with them, and I want to see them come to the Black Series. I would be absolutely thrilled by it. This is far and away the moment in Attack of the Clones that kicks things up to the next level, and I want to get it on my shelf. I'd love to have a Geonosian arena display with all 3 of these monsters causing absolute havoc. Obviously, these are 3 very large, but I think manageably sized creatures that would look incredible in Black Series scale. You could get some great articulation in there, particularly I think on the Acklay and the Nexu, you could get some great posability out of those 2 figures. The Reek as well, I think, would be just fantastic to play with. So what can we put in here to bulk this up to a HasLab scale project? Well, maybe we could throw in some 6-inch Geonosian handlers to sort of pose around them as if they're trying to coax them into eating the right people. We could go for some sounds. I remember my original Reek figure had sound effects that would just go off in the middle of the night and scare the living daylights out of me, but it would be cool. And maybe some battle damage options. Like, I remember my Acklay figure had a removable panel in its chest where you could pull his innards out as if Obi-Wan's just cut him open. But maybe you could have some claws or some parts of his legs that would come off to be replaced by damaged bits. I just feel like there are a lot of options you could go for that would make this set fantastic. So the arena monsters, the Acklay, the Nexu, and the Reek all come in at number 5 because there are no rules on this list and I'll do what I want. Coming in at number 4, we have the Jedi Interceptor. Now, I'm not really fussed whether we get the Anakin one or whether we get the Obi-Wan one, but in either case, this ship feels like the perfect size to be translated into the Black Series. It cannot be much bigger than the Snowspeeder would be. I can't even imagine it would be as big as the Snowspeeder, because it's just a cockpit with a couple of wings on it. But what makes these ships very, very interesting to me are the articulated wings that snap out into attack mode, as well as the potential to go in and have maybe some removable panels that allow for battle damage. Like, you can take a panel off and replace it with a panel that's got a great big scorch mark on it, maybe. Obviously, whether we end up going with Anakin's ship or Obi-Wan's ship, I would love to get a new figure of each of them. Now, we know that there are new Revenge of the Sith Anakins and Obi-Wans coming down the line. How hard would it be to really just cast a new head with the headset on so that we can put them in the cockpit of their ship and have them flying around in our collection? R2-D2, of course, an absolute must, and R4 as well. But for other things to bulk this set out, maybe it could come with some buzz droids. I'd love to get some buzz droids in the line. I feel like this is really the only way we can get these guys into the line, because would you really go out and buy a set of buzz droids? I don't think I would. And I'd buy pretty much anything. But buzz droids coming in a set with one or more of these HasLabs, I think would be a fantastic option. Like I said, I'd love to get some optional battle damage in there. As we know, Obi-Wan's ship goes through hell during the Battle of Coruscant, and I would love to be able to get that represented on my shelf. And hell, let's go to the full mile. Let's have lights and sounds. Give them lights in the end of their cannons or lights in their engines. Sounds as you fly them around. I've been having a lot of fun with the Jazzwares Microgalaxy Squadron Ghost, which makes different noises based on how you move it around. That would be great for this. I feel like it would work perfectly for this set. They're small, they are very, very cool, and I would love to get them on my shelf. I would back it in a heartbeat. The Jedi Interceptors coming at number 4. At number 3 is an idea I'm quite pleased with. It is the Imperial TIE Fighter. Now, I know what you're thinking. We already had a TIE Fighter in the line. Well, we all know how that turned out. It didn't sell very well, and now it's practically impossible to get hold of. Plus, there's the added fact that some people weren't happy with the fact that it was a First Order TIE Fighter and not an Imperial TIE Fighter. But here's my idea with the TIE Fighter. I think you have a great opportunity to create a modular TIE Fighter, because the cockpit on these fighters is pretty similar no matter which one of these things you're flying. So here's my pitch. You start out with the TIE Advanced Mark 1 that comes with Darth Vader. You call that, I don't know, the base set, right? and then you take the wings and the back of the Advanced, the thing that makes it the Advanced, and you have those pieces be removable, kind of modular. You take pieces off, and then as the tiers increase, you get additional wings and pilots for different kinds of TIE fighter. Now, I narrowed this down to 3 choices because I didn't want the base set to just be the regular TIE fighter, but I do think you should have the option to make a regular TIE fighter with a regular TIE fighter pilot. So I know we weren't going to talk about tiers, but maybe tier 1 would be the wings for a standard TIE fighter. You'd pop the advanced wings off and the back of the advanced fighter, you'd pop these new wings on, ergo TIE fighter. Then perhaps for the next tier, you get the wings to the TIE Interceptor, and you get a new pilot for the TIE Interceptor. You can put these wings on, and there you have it. You have a TIE Interceptor. Happy days. And then maybe for the top tier, let's go really all out and let's include the wings for a TIE Defender. And maybe you get Commander Scarus to fly it. I think this would be great. And not only do I think it would be a great set, I feel like you would sell more of them because people would want more of them. You would want to go out and buy multiples of this set so you could have all 3 classes of TIE Fighter on your shelf. Now, true, you might have the usual thing of people waiting to back until all of the tiers have been backed, but I feel like it would be such a cool set. And they already build these TIE fighters to have the wings pop off anyway, because they like to reference the old Kenner set. The idea of having different wings to go back onto it, I feel like it's just common sense. So you're basically getting a 3-for-1 out of this. You get one cockpit with multiple sets of wings, and you can pick whichever fighter you want to have on display. That's my pitch for number 3. It's a modular Imperial TIE fighter. Coming in at number 2, this is quite a popular choice among the community, and I feel like it's been proven that it can be done, is the Imperial AT-ST Walker. It's one of my favourite classes of Walker. Now, as I say, a chap on Instagram has recently proven that you can make a Black Series scale AT-ST. So even if they go for the relative scale thing where you can, maybe in the cockpit you can just get the 2 pilots in and that's that, I feel like having an AT-ST dominating your Endor display would just be so cool. I mean, these things are awesome. This is another vehicle that I had as a kid, and he had like mechanized legs that were supposed to make him walk, but it never worked properly. It would always trip over the carpet and fall over. But honestly, I would just love to get a Black Series AT-ST into the line. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible with my choices here, but if I were to ignore that directive, this would be the vehicle that I would want, as an AT-ST with maybe sound effects for the cannons and the walking sound effect. That would be fantastic. I'd like to get a fully articulated cockpit so you can rotate it around on top of the legs and aim those cannons. We're seeing a lot more AT-STs with additional weapons built onto the side, so maybe we could get some rocket launchers, some grenade launchers, just cool stuff like that. And you know what? It's a toy, so I'm okay if it has some toyetic features to it. Firing missiles, firing grenades, lights and sounds, the works. I would love this set. I think it would be fantastic. What are some other things that could come with it? Obviously, I would want the 2 AT-ST drivers to come with it as well. I'm holding on to this little, slither of hope that that's the reason we haven't seen the AT-ST driver in the line yet, because they're saving him. They're sitting on it until they can make a HasLab AT-ST. That's just like my little slither of hope. I'd like to get both in the box with the AT-ST. I would like to not have to go out and buy a second driver, but maybe we could get a Chewbacca for the set. Maybe we could get some Ewoks with some gliders. I don't know. I just feel like this set would be so good. It would be such a great centerpiece to your Black Series collection, and I want it on my shelf. I want to have the problem of figuring out where to display this thing. It's nicer problems to have. The AT-ST comes in at number 2. But my number 1 pick for a Black Series HasLab that I would back day 1 would be the Trade Federation AAT Battle Tank. This to me just makes sense. It just seems like something we should have in our line. Now, we're getting so much separatist representation that I just feel like maybe we're getting closer to the day when we can finally get one of these things in the line. But it would probably have to be a HasLab just because of the size of it. These things are pretty massive. They are right on the limit for what I think Hasbro would go for. I feel like I've heard them say that there's like a 2-figure rule. So if the vehicle has more than 2 pilots, it's out. So I tried to incorporate that into my choices here. And the AAT does technically have a tank crew of maybe 2 or 3 droids. So maybe with a bit of relative scaling, we could get that down to a 2 droid tank, and then they'd get the go-ahead to actually go out and make this thing. So that begs the question, what do I want the set to be like? Well, I would love for it to have, obviously, an articulated main cannon, articulated side cannons, maybe we could get some more toyetic firing missiles out the front. I would love for it to come with an Series commander droid. This is another one of those things where I'm like, maybe we don't have the commander droid because they're saving him for the AAT. Maybe I'm being, I'm being optimistic, but I feel like it makes sense, right? We could also get one of the blue pilot droids in there, or maybe even one of the green specified tank droids. A lot of people like blast effects. We could get some blast effects in there, lots and lots of booms to put around battlefields that our cannon has obviously just fired off. The Black Series does a great job with these hovering bases that come with flying vehicles like speeders. I'd love to get one of those so the thing could actually be raised up off the ground, because we know it's a hover tank, you know, it's not on treads or anything like that, it's a hover tank. And yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go all out. I want lights, I want sounds, I want the cannon barrels to light up and flash when you, I don't know, press a button to make it shoot, firing missiles out the front. Yeah, I think this would be a fantastic set, and I've been saving it specifically for this list because I wanted to talk about it. I was even thinking maybe there could be a choice for an alternate color scheme, like maybe if enough of these things sold, there could be an option to go in and say whether you want to have the Trade Federation color scheme from the Phantom Menace, or maybe you want to go for more the Separatist color scheme from the Clone Wars. I'll be honest, I just want this tank. I want this tank so much, and that's why the Trade Federation Armored Assault tank is my #1 choice for HasLab projects that I would back tomorrow. So there you have it. Those were my top 5 picks for Black Series HasLab projects that I would back in a heartbeat. So with all that said, let me pass this subject off to you. What are some Black Series HasLab ideas that you can think of that you'd love to see come to this line? Are you more of a creature fan? Like, do you want to see more of the weird and wild creatures come to the line? Maybe Obi-Wan's lizard friend from Revenge of the Sith, and you could probably pair it up with Grievous's wheelbike? Maybe. Or are you more of a vehicle person? Do you want to see more of the tanks and stuff come to the line? Honestly, I just want to hear from all of you, so let me know down below and I'll get back to each and every one of you. With all that being said, next week will be Christmas, and the week after that we will be into 2025, so thank you so much to everyone for sticking with us through 2024. It's been a fantastic year. Really enjoyed it. Got a bit weird at the end there, but we're all good now. To all of my viewers and subscribers that celebrate a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year, all the best wishes for the holiday season. I hope you all have a fantastic time with all your friends and family, however you go about celebrating. Hell, if you want to let me know what you're doing over the holidays, feel free. I'd love to hear about it. In the meantime, however, and for the last time of 2024, I've been Grand Moff Tony. Those were my top 5 Black Series wishlist picks for Star Wars HasLab projects. You may subscribe when ready. Oh! Ow. Oh, that hurt. Okay. Obi-Wan 1-1. 1-1? 1.